my son was trespassing in the park and this and that, and, you know, of course we got very nervous, and I said, please, he wanted to confirm that that was my son, because he had no ID. I said, put my son on for a second. I wanted to confirm. I mean, how do I know this man was a police officer? He wouldn't put my son on the phone.
Did he say why?
If you don't believe me, he wouldn't put my son on the phone. He says, if you don't believe me, then I could bring him to the 122 precinct and you could pick him up there. That's how you speak to a parent?
And all you were doing was asking for information.
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
I said all you were doing was asking for information.
Well, he was asking me to verify, you know, his name, Philip Dietrich, his address, his date of birth. I just wanted to talk to my son for a second to make sure this was really a police officer. And I gave him the information because I got scared, you know, he's going to bring him to the precinct. And my husband and I went there, and of course we all got into a fight, and he gave my son the ticket for trespassing, and Philip, the son, for loud and, wait a minute, which my son was not loud. I admit myself and my husband were loud, not my son.
Well, let me just go back over what you told me and then make sure I understand what happened. So, your son was in the park. Was it a legal time to be in the park?
No, it was not an illegal time.
Okay, but it wasn't a major felony for him to be there. It was some sort of ordinance that he was violating, correct?
Yes, he was violating. Yes, he was wrong.
Okay, so he's violating a minor ordinance which they can cite him for, and the police officer had approached
We're not arguing that at all.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to repeat the story so I make sure I have the facts right.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So he is detaining your son based on this ordinance that's been violated, and he then calls you while your son is there. He's got your son detained, and he got the phone number from your son, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I would assume dialed the number and said, hello, Ma, and that was all my son said, and he said the police officer took the phone from him.
Okay. Now repeat to me what the officer actually said to you. Go over what he said to you one more time.
I don't remember exactly, but he said, my name is police officer, I forget his name exactly, Ferranti, I forget. My son will know. From the 122 precinct, I have your son here. He was in the park, you know, during past dusk or whatever it says on the sign. I just want to verify his name because he doesn't have any ID on him. So I said, well, put my son on for a second. And he said, no, I'm not putting your son on. Just verify his name, his address, and his date of birth. I said, but how do I know you're a police officer? He said, well, if you don't believe me, I can take him to the 122 precinct and you could pick him up there. And then I gave him his name, his address, and his date of birth.
Okay, so you then provided the information that he was requesting.
Correct.
Okay, so you actually gave him what he was asking for, and then what happened?
We hung up, and my husband and I drove to the park.
Okay, and then what happened after that?
Well, we had arguments, you know, when my husband got mad at him, how dare you speak to my wife that way? And then, you know, we...
Okay, oh, so let me stop there. So the officer was still there at the park when you guys arrived?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you walked up, and you got out of your car, you walked up, and how did the conversation start once you reached the park?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay, but well, here's what I'm going to tell you. The police are going to need to know this in order to decide whether this officer is guilty of misconduct. These details will be important, so you need to think about it now. And what I will tell you is, so far, you probably have misconduct, but I just need a little more information. So when you got into the park and approached the officer, your husband...
It wasn't really... It was the exit of the park. We were right there, right on the tip of the... The boys were leaving the park as the cops approached. Okay.
So your husband gets out. He has a conversation with the officer, but he, at some point during that conversation, explains to the officer that he didn't appreciate the way he spoke to you.
Oh, yeah. But my husband, I admit, got very loud.
Okay, but aside from getting loud, he never threatened the officer. He never did anything untoward or violent, correct?
No.
Okay. And how did the officer react to the criticism? What did he say, if you remember?
I don't remember exactly, but I know he defended himself, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't think he did anything wrong.
Okay.
All we wanted to know was I wanted to know if my son was safe or not. I don't care that he was well, I do care that he was in the park, but I mean, come on. I was a kid once before. We were all kids. They were on the swings, they were leaving. Then he accused my son of, where's the pot? Where's the pot? You know, what are you trying to get? I don't understand.
He was asking where the pot is?
Yeah, where'd you stash the pot? Where'd you stash the pot?
Was there any aroma or odor of marijuana or something that would give him a...
Absolutely not. I asked the officer. I went because my husband was very agitated. Me and the officer went to the stop. I said, tell me, were they smoking pot? He said, no. I said, were they smoking cigarettes? No. Were they doing anything destructive? Because all he kept saying, the police over and over, he gets numerous complaints about the park, the people, there are kids there hanging out, destructive, they destroy this and that. I said, were they doing any of those things? He said, no.
Okay.
Usually you say, come on, boys, keep it going. Come on, you're not supposed to be in here.
So he acknowledged, just a moment, this is very important. So the officer acknowledged that outside of this charge of being in the park, there were no other crimes being committed while your son was out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, well that goes very much in your favor, at least to the extent that this is a very minor offense and it could have been handled exactly as you described.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So why did he arrest your son? Did he give a reason, and when did he make...
He didn't arrest him.
Oh.
No, he didn't get arrested.
Okay, but how did you guys end up at the police station?
We didn't end up in the police station.
Oh, so all this happened in the park and that's where it ended?
That's correct.
Okay, I misunderstood then. I got it now. So all this took place in the park, and what did he do? He wrote your son a citation?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
One for being in the park past dusk, and the other one was for, I forgot how he worded it, loud and something.
Okay. Okay.
And my son was not. I was, and so was my husband. My son was not.
Do you think that he's accusing your son of something that happened before you got there, or something that happened as a result of you and your husband complaining?
I'm assuming he couldn't give us a ticket. Well, I guess he could have, but he took it out on my son.
Got it. That's what I thought you were saying. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. Based on what you've told me, I do think you have grounds for a complaint, and that this should be reported. If the officer was rude and otherwise unprofessional in your opinion, that's a basis to make a formal complaint. So we have a website, as I mentioned, policeabuse.com. If you decide you want us to assist you, there's a complaint form on that website. Your son already filled it out. We are not going to act on that complaint unless you call us and tell us that you want us to proceed. And if you do contact us, we will forward that complaint to NYPD's Internal Affairs Division, and they will then take action and contact you.
Okay.
All right?
And what happened to the police officer?
Well, it depends. They're going to interview him. They're going to want to talk with you and interview you. And at the conclusion of those two interviews, they're going to make a determination as to whether or not he violated policy. If he violated policy, disciplinary action on an event like this will range from an oral reprimand where they just tell him that he did something wrong, to something stronger where he might get a suspension where he loses time off from work without pay. It's unlikely that they're going to go beyond that, but that's the range of what could happen to him. And this will also be something that will be entered into his personnel file if he's found guilty of misconduct.
Okay.
Okay? Now feel free to call us.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, and feel free to call us if you need any help with the complaint. We're happy to assist, and there's no charge for the filing of your complaint, and there's also no charge for advice, so use our number if you need us.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.